To this day, my favorite movie of all time is The Lord of the Rings from director Peter Jackson. And before I get here the comments, yes, I count all 3 movies as one long film because choosing between the parts would be as painful as walking the One Ring all the way to Mordor. I was so fascinated by the fantasy world that Tolkien created when I was a kid, and for a little bit, I thought the cool swords and action scenes were why I love the film so much. Every year, I wait to watch a movie expecting myself to say, yeah, this is better than Lord of the Rings, but at the end of every year, I still can say firmly that nothing tops the trio for me. I recently rewatched the films in 2020, and I can firmly say that these films are more relevant and timely than ever before. The scenes that really tugged at my heartstrings and made me love the films were actually the scenes that had little to do with fantasy at all. Yes, can I watch Orlando Bloom take down an elephant 100 times a day a year? Probably, and will I always get chills during the Battle of Helm's Deep? Of course, but this time watching around, there were a few specific moments that actually made me cry, and I realized that these scenes are the reasons why these films are so incredible. When the film opens after the prologue and the Howard Shore music chimes in, we get a look at the Shire, and honestly, I could stay there forever. While I would love to go to Hogwarts or spend a day in Avengers Tower, the Shire is actually the one place I would visit more than any other location on film. And that's because it's designed to be everything we want. The Shire isn't just a collection of rolling green hills, lakes, pubs, and friends. It's a visceral reminder of how we viewed the world as kids. Just as Gandalf states that the hobbits don't have any real knowledge of the coming and goings of the world, neither do kids. The Shire is a simple place. It's a place of rest and relaxation. It's truly a self-contained bubble not contaminated by the horrors of the rest of Middle-earth. As I watched Fellowship again, I had this burning ache and desire to just want to smoke on the doorstep of my hobbit hole and block everything out. And that's what a lot of hobbits do. They don't care about the rest of Middle-earth because they don't need to. Now, I'm gonna be honest, Frodo was never my favorite character in the trilogy, but his role is the most pivotal in the entire story. While he is the one to take the ring to Mordor, his character reflects a lot of what people do when they grow up. Frodo leaving the Shire is more of a symbolic departure, just how humans grow up. Eventually, your perfect kid world is disrupted when you must set out and face the problems of the real world. This is when Frodo's and Sam's dynamic really shines through. They represent 2 types of people in the world. Frodo starts his quest with pure intentions, but his burden of the ring eventually twists his mind into obsession, so much so that when Sam asks him if he remembers the Shire, he responds by saying he can't even remember the taste of food. Sam, on the other hand, represents the kind of people who consistently keeps the idea of hope alive. While Sam keeps walking forward in his heart, he still believes in the idea of the Shire. He trusts in innocence and hope, and despite how dark the skies get, he keeps going and dreaming of a place that he's been, of a better world, of the Shire. After I made this realization, I understood the ending a lot more. While I understood why Frodo left Middle-earth in the end, it never really stuck with me right, until I thought of Frodo's character arc within the context of this idea of growing up. When Frodo completes his quest and he sets the world right, he cannot return to the Shire and have a life there because he has let too much of the darkness in. The ring's power of obsession and the burden of carrying the problems of the world was so much that even when all was well again, he could never fully believe in the idea of the Shire. He could never return home. Sam, on the other hand, who kept the Shire in constant memory, returned and lived the life he always wanted. I feel like Sam's speech at the end of the 2 Towers really sums up everything beautifully, and it has become one of my favorite scenes in film of all time. Let me tell you, it really hit hard this year. In a year where, much like Frodo, and all we can see is dark and the burdens of the world weigh us down like the ring, we need to try and be more like Sam and remind ourselves what we are fighting for. Even when the journey seems hopeless and bleak, Sam reminds us that there is some good left in this world, and it's worth fighting for, because one day, we will be able to return to the rolling green hills and keep the idea of the Shire alive.